Hi, I'm Anna and welcome to my Happy Hibiscus online class. Today I'll share 4 beautiful cards with you featuring that bundle and some tips for using up your scraps and how to color those embossed die cuts. I have a little sneak peek for you here for all 4 cards, and you will find the supply list and measurements for all 4 of them in the video description below. The product I'm featuring today, of course, is the Happy Hibiscus Bundle by Stampin' Up, as well as the Lily Pond Lane Designer Series paper and those very sparkly iridescent faceted gems. Now let's get stamping. The first card in this class comes together super quick. I die cut one of the labels from the Happy Hibiscus dies from the Designer Series paper, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment on there in Pretty Peacock. I chose the congratulations, so making sure that's inked up nice and even. Always remember to apply even pressure. There we go. And just so we don't get our fingers inked up on the very first card, let's close the ink pad. Then I have some basic white cardstock here that I embossed with the hybrid folder, and I'm going to layer that with some multi-purpose liquid glue. I just prefer using that on embossed layers because it really gets into all the nooks and crannies on this. And I'm going to layer this on a slightly bigger piece of Granny Apple Green cardstock. There is, it is about 1/8 of an inch larger, so we get this nice narrow frame behind our embossed piece. Okay, so I wanted to go on my card this way. Just giving it a second. And then I'm going to layer this on my card base, which is your regular card base, 5.5 by 8.5. Again, all the measurements are in the description as well. In Pretty Peacock. So we're going to put that on there. Again, making sure it's nice and even, giving it a second to adhere. And then I'm just going to pop this banner on there, or this label, with some dimensionals. I think I'm out of my larger ones, so I'm just going to use up some of my smaller ones here. Let's see. Okay, that's my other end there. So I'm just going to use 6 of my smaller, so my mini Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm going to take off all the backing. Hold on, it's going to be quicker if I do it this way. Well, I say so and then it's not working. So they're very clingy today. All right, and then we're going to line that up here. So I wanted to hang over a little bit to the side here, but still want to make sure that it's straight. Okay, looks good. Let's get our dimensional backings. I'm probably going to find them everywhere after this video. And for some sparkle, bringing in my iridescent faceted gems. Let's get these out. And I like to use my take your pick tool for that to pick them up. So I'm taking a larger one and put that down here. And then I'll pick up 2 smaller ones. And I'll put one down here. And another one, let's see, I'll put it over there. So in kind of a triangle shape, that always makes it look a little bit more random. And there you go. And of course, since it's kind of tricky to write on the Pretty Peacock dark cardstock, you can definitely put in, or I would definitely put in some basic white cardstock on the inside. But there you go. That's card number 1. All right, so let me show you how to create card number 2. I'm starting off with a label that is die cut from basic white cardstock with our Something Fancy dies. There's 3 different sizes of this shape in the set, and this is the smallest. I'm going to stamp my sentiment in Pretty Peacock. So I'm going to ink that up. Oh, I think I need to re-ink my Pretty Peacock pretty soon. All right, so let's stamp that down here at the bottom. Nice and even pressure. There we go, perfect. We're going to put that aside for a minute. Then I'm bringing in the filling stamps for both leaves and some basic white. Let's close our Pretty Peacock here. I don't need that anymore. So bringing in some Granny Apple Green. I'm going to stamp my 2 leaves just like that. One of the large and one of the small. Okay. And let's leave that here on the side. And then I have another scrap of basic white cardstock, and I'm going to stamp the filling of the large hibiscus flower in Pretty and Pink. So inking that up, and then again just stamp on here, nice and even pressure. All right, there we go. And now let me show you why these are actually called hybrid embossing folders, because we're bringing in our dies here. I'm going to line that up with this one here. So this one actually die cuts all 3 flowers. Let's see here, which way does it go? I think this way. And I'm going to need some Post-it tape. Like that, just to keep it in place. Like so. And now the important thing is when we bring in our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, so we'll die cut these as well, you want to make sure you don't use your regular sandwich build-up for die cutting. So we're going to remove the 2 and the 3. So we're just using plate number 1. We're bringing in our embossing folder. So we're building the sandwich as if we're just embossing. And then we can, don't touch your paper now, or at least try not to touch it. Just grabbing the dies. I'm going to line these up here with my embossing folder. So let's see here. The reason I'm trying not to touch my cardstock is in there so I don't accidentally move it. Even though I have it taped down, it might wiggle a little bit. So just lined up now. So our dies are inside our embossing folder. And then, I don't know, oh, up here, I have plate number 4. So just as if we were just only embossing, we're going to run it through with the dies. So these embossing folders are made in a way that they can take the die cutting at the same time. And there we go. And now our image is not just stamped and die cut, but it also has a beautiful texture on there, embossed texture. So while we have this out, we're going to switch back to our regular sandwich. So plate 1, 2, a bottom plate number 3, because we still want to die cut our leaves. So let me line these up real quick. So I'm gonna go back here, take that off, and just to repurpose my tape. All right, and that's the whole secret to it for using our hybrid embossing folders. Just lining up your dies and your embossing folder. And if you do have a stamped image, then I highly recommend taping it to your dies first and then lining it up inside the embossing folder. But you might just have to test which way works best for you. All right, so taking that there. Okay, so now we're die cutting our leaves in the regular way. And then we almost got all of our pieces. I want to show you another cool way of using up your paper scraps. So let me put that down. I'm going to pop these out. So we have our pieces here. Okay, so let's see. Let's start with our label. Okay, so I need my little trimmer here. So I want to create the illusion of a longer label than it actually is. So I'm going to place it in my trimmer, and I'm going to line this one up at 1 3/4. That should be enough. So I'm just trimming off. I'm not throwing this away. I'm keeping this, okay? I'm just cutting off the top of my label there. And then, since we have the trimmer here, so this is designer series paper, again, from the Lily Pad Lane pack. That is 3x2. And I'm going to cut it into 2 pieces at 2 inches and 1. Okay, so this was our 3x2, and now it's 1 inch and 2 inch by 2 inches. Okay, all right, and that's all the cutting we need to do. So let me show you why I did that. Sometimes that's all you have, a 3x2 scrap, but you want to use it for your whole card base. So this is our regular basic wide thick cardstock. So where's my Stampin' Seal? So I'm going to put some adhesive on here. And I'm going to adhere that just right on the fold. Okay, working on a white surface, it helps to pick that up sometimes. Okay, I really hope everything's still in focus. And then I'm going to adhere my other piece lined up with the open edge of my card base. Okay, I want my arrows this way. Now, if you do have a little trouble lining these up, just take a larger ruler that you have and make sure it's lined up with your first piece here. And then you can just place the other one right there. So you can make sure that they're on the same, like they're the same height. Okay, I like to wiggle this in place a little bit, make sure it's not peeking over. Perfect. And now this way you still cover your whole card base, because what we're going to do is cover it up with our tag. So this was a piece that was 2 by 4 1/4, and I punched it with our gorgeous elegant tag topper punch. So you just slide it in there and punch the top. And I cut some more of that designer series paper to a size that just nicely layers on there. Again, I have all the measurements in the description down below. So we're going to, let's see here, I want to make sure I stay on camera. So lining that up there with a nice little border all around. So let me show you. Oh, that got a little bit wonky. So if you don't push too hard, even with the Stampin' Seal, you can still wiggle it in place. Okay. So I'm going to use some dimensionals here. I'm out of large ones, I think. Or I can't find it right now. So we'll just use the small ones. That's okay too. So we'll just have to use a few more. So now if you want to, put one there, there. I'm really going overboard now, but it's a large tag, so I want to make sure that it stays in place. Okay, oops. And I tore the backing off of one here. So we might as well just use it. Okay, so now taking all of these off. Let's just throw them onto our silicone mat because they tend to stay in place on there at least. So that one. Yeah. So definitely larger, regular dimensional size is the way to go. Okay. Ooh. Okay, picked it up quick enough. All right, so now we can just place that over there and no one's going to know that there was a gap. So I really love this card design for that. Okay, now I'm going to put some adhesive here on my sentiment. I'm going to layer that on here. Again, trying to hit the middle. That wasn't it. So, yeah, that looks good. Okay, so here I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue, just making sure that's the back side. Oop, there was some extra gunk on there. Didn't need that. There we go. Just a tiny bit. Let me just get rid of that gunky piece there. Okay, I'll do it this way. And again, if you want to, you can use your ruler to really line them up. Okay, because we're going to place our flower right on top of that, so no one, again, is going to see our little, well, that's a bigger gap than here probably, but that's all right. Okay, so getting some adhesive on here. Well, I'll use the, if it's willing, I'm going to use the liquid glue again in my little applicator bottle. So we're going to place that right on there. Okay, and then a little bit of glue here on our leaf. Oh, no, that was probably too much. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up some of that with our small leaf. That's what I like to do if I happen to get too much glue on one layer. All right, so we're going to tuck that under there, push that down, and then I'm going to put a little bit more on there. Oh, I might have to refill this one. Okay, there we go. And oh, I have a finger covered in glue. I'm usually not that clumsy with our multi-purpose liquid glue, so sorry about that. All right, there we go. And now for a finishing touch, I need to get rid of that glue before it gets anywhere where it's not supposed to go. Bringing in our iridescent gems. Going to pick a larger one and put that here. And I'm going to take a small one and put that here. And another small one, and I'm going to put that right over here. So we have, again, our triangle for our gems. That's just what I like to do because then it looks more random. If you put two, I usually put a larger one and a smaller one closer together, and then another smaller one in a different spot, but still trying to create that triangle. And there you go. That is card number 2 for our Happy Hibiscus class stamping. I have another one of the skinny label that is in the die set, and I'm stamping my sentiment first here in gray granite. This one says, "You make me smile," and we're stamping that on there. Again, just right in the middle, nice and even pressure. Okay, there we go. We can put that aside. Then I definitely need to bring in some scrap paper here. Can you tell how old the scrap paper is with that lighthouse on there? But anyways, so I have some gray granite cardstock here that I die cut with the Deckled Circles dies. As I'm filming this, I'm not 100% sure that they're still available. I'm sorry if they already sold out because they, right after I designed this class, they went on our last chance product list. So, but anyways, I still wanted to use them. And if you happen to have them, then you can still make this card, but this would also be included in your card kit. All right, so I have my texture stamp here that is in the Happy Hibiscus, just making sure it's clean. And I'm going to stamp my texture, and I want a really light texture. So I'm going to stamp off twice, and I'm just going to go back and forth around here on the circle, inking it up, and then just stamp off twice, maybe rotating my stamp as well as my circle, and then just one more time. Okay, so really just a little bit of I think you can barely see that, so just a little bit of texture there. If you want a little bit stronger, just stamp off once. I think that's it for the stamping, so we can get that out of the way. Okay, now then I have a piece here of the basic white cardstock. Then I have the embossing folder here, and I'm going to line up my die. So this is what I wanted to show you with card number 2. So this is why it's called a hybrid embossing folder, because you can use it together, the dies inside the embossing folder. I want this flower over here, so I'm going to place my cardstock on there. Oh wait, I actually wanted both of them, both of the smaller ones. So just want to make sure I have them both covered. Looks good. And now we just have to change the sandwich a little bit on our die cutting machine. And let me just make sure I'm not losing any of my pieces here when I bring in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So now I only have the plate 1 in there, okay? And then I have my embossing folder. Let me put something on there so it's not moving. And then we're going to need plate number 4. Okay, if you have a different machine, you can still do that. You would just have to test it out a little bit with your sandwich and which plates to use. So I'm just running that through. Okay, let me just put that aside. And now I have my embossed and die cut flowers. So I can get that out of the way. Now I definitely have to bring in my scrap paper again. So, because I wanted to show you something else you can do. So now these are die cut. And you can, you can use any kind of cardstock, designer series paper, whatever you want to do. I decided to bring in some Stampin' Blends. And I'm just going to color basically the outline of my image here, of my flowers. So you still have, the usual white edge from die cutting. So I'm trying to stick with that. And not, if you wanted to, you could color it all the way, but I do like the white edge even on these pieces. So just going over it a few times with the light Pretty and Pink Stampin' Right. No, not Stampin' Right. Stampin' Blend. So there we go. And then I'm going to switch real quick to my light peach pie. So just going to do the middle of my flower there. And then the same thing, just coloring my flower with the Stampin' Blends. So if you want to, you can go around the peach pie part first. So just make sure you go all around. And this is what I love about our Stampin' Blends. It would be a bit tricky to do this with our Stampin' Write markers, even though it's the same color and we have them in all the colors. You would definitely see all the usual marks, you know, from a regular coloring pen. So, but the blends, they just make it look gorgeous. So, just going around. So, and if you wanted to, where there's a little bit of, you know, texture, you can just go over them. I'm not even switching to the dark one, to the dark marker. I'm just using my light one again and going over some bits and pieces here to leave a little bit more of that ink on there for extra texture. All right, there we go. And then I also die cut 2 of the large leaves in the set. This one I already went ahead and colored. And I'm using Granny Apple Green on it. Let's see, this is the dark one. So this is how I did it. I just took dark one and went over, well, basically the skeleton of that leaf. And now I'm just going to blend that out. And these don't have, these are not embossed, so I don't have to worry about an extra wide edge there. Actually, in this case, you want to make sure that you have the whole edge of it. So, okay. So I colored this ahead of time. I don't know why it looks kind of, I think I put it in my little bag before all the alcohol maybe evaporated. So, okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip these off, these little stem ends, because we're not going to need them. They're not going to be visible. They're just going to annoy me. All right, so we have all our pieces there. Okay. Now let's put together our card. So there's our sentiment, our circle, and let's put this together again first. So I'm taking my sentiment, and let's see, did I have, no, I don't think I have any larger dimensionals still left. So just going to do 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's going to be enough, especially since I'm tearing it to that circle. Come on, let go. Okay, so find the spot that you want to have at the bottom, and then try and line this up here. Okay, there we go. Then I'm using just, oh, hold on, I feel like I had some edge piece left here. Oh yeah, that's perfect. So just using that here on my, oh, that's going to stick to me now for the rest of the video. So just putting a little bit of adhesive there. Well, I love how this little tip here of the flower almost fits perfectly between the S and the L here. So I'm going to take advantage of that and pop that right there. I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive here on my small one. Oh, let me maybe pop that on there first. One of the leaves. So just a little bit of adhesive there. Since I'm using multi-purpose liquid glue, I can still wiggle it in place. Same with this one, so I can kind of see how much I want them to show from behind my sentiment. Yeah, I think that's cute. That's good. So we'll leave it at that. And again, just a little bit of liquid glue behind there. We're going to tuck that under our larger flower right there. Oops. Okay, that didn't grab. Okay, I think now it did. Okay, so, and now you have even a fun look with just die cutting, no stamping for the flowers, just a little bit of coloring. All right, so now let's finish our card. Again, I have a piece of basic white cardstock here that I went ahead and embossed, and I'm going to use the bigger bottle on this. So I'm going to put some adhesive on the back. Going to layer that on some Granny Apple Green, slightly bigger. Gives our embossed piece such a nice pop of color all around it. And then we can adhere that to our card base. So, and again, I went with basic white thick cardstock. Just make sure it's opening the right way. So just putting that panel on there. All right. And now if you wanted to, I think I did that on my initial card, you can put some, let's use up some of these pieces here. The edge pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe. Some of our mini dimensional edges. So, okay, just taking all the backings off. All right, and then that goes onto our card base. It's up to you how much space you want on here. I think I'm going to go with this, just making sure my label is straight and lined up. All right, and there we go. And then of course, for a little bit of bling, we're going to bring these back in. I'm going to pop a larger one over here and a small one over here, and then another small one up there. So, and there we go. Card number 3. So gorgeous, and yet again a different version or a different idea of using the dies and also the embossing folder. Lots of embossing on this card. All right, are you ready for the final card? This one is definitely a little bit more stepped up. We do a little bit more stamping and die cutting, but I promise you it's definitely worth it. So I have a piece here of basic white cardstock, a larger piece, and I'm going to stamp my trio of hibiscus flowers, the outline. So these are mounted together. And I'm going to stamp that right on here, like so. Then I'm bringing in, well, some scrap paper. I should definitely do that. So let me get this out of the way a little bit here. So now I'm going to stamp the filling on these. So we've used this stamp before. So I'm going to ink it up, but I'm going to stamp it off twice because I want a really light filling of that pretty and pink. Okay, like that. And I love just the texture it gives. Now this one's going to be a little bit tricky, so you might want to see which way you have to stamp it beforehand. There we go. Oh gosh, this is tricky to see. I'll try my best. Okay, so again, stamped off twice first, and then the filling for the small flower at the top, stamping off twice, and then stamping it on there. So just really very light color there. So that was that with a pretty and pink, so we can put that aside. Now I already went ahead and I did the same thing with the outline and the filling stamps for 2 sets of leaves. And I stamped these in Granny Apple Green on Granny Apple Green cardstock. And I love how just the way the stamps are designed, it's almost like there's, you know, a highlight. Well, I don't want to say shadows, but yeah, it's just getting a lot of texture. So, and I did the same thing. I stamped the Granny Apple Green outline in full ink, and then before I stamped the filling parts, I stamped it off twice. You can see it here. So just to keep this card, you know, kind of shorter. So let's get this out of the way for right now, like this. Now I'm bringing in my die cutting machine again. So let me put these aside for a second. And we're going to die cut this. Of course, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and also do it in the with the embossing folder. So let's see here. All 3 flowers. Yeah, looks good. So I'm putting something here in the middle and then maybe one down here. I think that should be good. Running that through my die cutting machine. And then bring these over here. So quick and easy to stamp and die cut these. I love it. Okay, so now let's bring in some other pieces here. We have to do just one, like one more stamp. No, 2 actually. So I have the texture stamp here that we used on an earlier card. And I'm bringing in the Granny Apple Green. So at this point, I would stamp my leaves on Granny Apple Green cardstock and die cut them as well. And I have some designer series paper. Again, the Lily Pond, I'm not sure. Lily Lane something. Designer series paper, again in the pretty and pink. And I'm going to put that down here. So, but what I want to do is I want to stamp that texture in 2 corners, just to have a little bit of extra texture. So I'm going to stamp that over here. That's where my paper is going to go. And then I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to stamp it right there. Okay, so that's all we're doing there. So if you wanted to, you can go ahead and actually glue that down. So that's what I'm going to do. If my stamp and seal is cooperating, there we go. Nice and even pressure. So like I said, it's just to have a little bit of texture there. So I could have stamped them even further apart. Okay. So let's go ahead and put that on our card base. So this is Granny Apple Green. My card base is also Granny Apple Green. So lots of Granny Apple Green on this one. So just some adhesive all around. Make sure your card base is opening the right way. And then lining it up. Let's see here. Okay, looks good. So there's my card base. And then last thing I'm going to do is stamp my sentiment. I went back to the thanks for being so kind. You can never have enough thank you cards. Inking that up and stamping that right into the circle die that also comes with the Happy Hibiscus. So that's what I love about these new hybrid bundles that we've been releasing. You have everything in there to make gorgeous cards. You have the images and you have extra, so you don't just have the framelits, the frame dies to die cut your images, but you also have dies to die cut other elements. Then we usually have a circle and a like longer label die, and then not to forget the embossing folder that coordinates with everything. So just really, really gorgeous. Okay, so now here is a little tip. If you're not sure how you're going to arrange all your pieces, what I like to do is I just use one of the mini dimensionals, because I do know I want to pop up my sentiment circle. So I just put one on there on the back first and put that down onto my card. So let's see how low and how far over here. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so because now we can arrange our other pieces under there without having to figure out how much to cut away from our images. So I can just tuck that under there like so. And then I'll take this one. Let's see which end. Like this. So just putting some Stampin' Seal on the back. Of course, you can use multi-purpose liquid glue, whatever is your favorite. Oh, I think I did cut this one down. So let's see. Oh, I got some dimensional on the back of that. That confused me for a second. So anyway, so we can put that there. Oh, I think that was from the first card, that little piece of dimensional. I told you that was gonna follow me around till the very end, and it did. So just putting some adhesive here on my little petal, and I'm going to tuck that under the larger one like so. Oops, didn't want it there, just a tiny bit further down. Okay, so then I'm going to take my stamped leaves and tuck them under here as well. And I did want them under my, let's see here, under that flower a little bit, because I still have the other one, a tiny bit. Okay, we're going to use some liquid glue on that. Okay, so just tucking that under there till you're happy with it. And sometimes we just have to use our other tools to kind of get under there and push it down so the adhesive can actually grab onto it. And just a few more things. I told you this one is a little bit more effort, but I think it turns out so gorgeous. So again, just tucking that under my larger flower there, and our sentiment. And the second small leaf is going under there as well. So as you can see, none of that dimensional that I have there in the middle is getting in the way. Well, here a little bit, but that was one cut. Okay, so now I have these gorgeous petals here that are also part of the dies. And let me just get that out of the way. And what I like to do is bring in my Stampin' Pierce mat. I'll put these on there. Then I use just the closed tip of my Take Your Pick tool and just push in the middle. And that already gives my flowers a little bit of that curve. Just quick and easy. And now I'm going to put all of them on mini dimensionals who just fit on there perfectly. It's a little bit trickier on the small ones, but still it's not going to show as long as you put them right in the middle. So let's take these backings off. And I'm going to put one right over here. Oh, hold on. One thing I wanted to show you. So Now that we have arranged all these layers behind our sentiment, we can actually go ahead and put some supporting mini dimensionals under there. So I took the backing off. I don't know if you can see that. I can't even see it on my screen. So I took the backing off of one side of 3 of them. Now I'm going to pick them up and just go back in and place them under there. So one there. That way my sentiment still gets the kind of support and is not going all wonky in the mail. But I still had enough space to figure out where to put everything. Let's see, does it need one more there? No, but one down here. So I'll just do one more. While we're, I know I'm not gonna go back in there when I want to mail off the card and I feel like there's something missing. So there you go. So now it's nice and even, and now we can take our flowers here and I'll put one over here and one up here, so right next to my circle, and one down here. All right, and now for a finishing touch. Oh, I still had that ink pad open. I'm not worried about it drying out, definitely not, but I'm worried about me grabbing into it and getting Granny Apple Green all over me. Okay, so, and then like on our other cards, we're going to embellish it with these faceted gems, and I'll just put these right onto my flowers. So this is definitely a thicker card, so you might want to hand this over in person, or just make sure that you may have like maybe a protective layer in your envelope so it's not getting smushed. And there you go, there's card number 4. Like I said, definitely a little bit more labor of love kind of project, but definitely worth it. And of course you can cut a piece of basic white for the inside and stamp your flowers again if you want to. So yeah, there's card number 4. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Share the video with your crafty friends and browse my channel for more sweet and simple paper crafting. See you next time.